As a rider, safety is part of your routine. It's second nature. Does that mean safe isn't exciting? Or could safe actually make everything else possible, like jumping higher or making tighter turns? Safe gives you the freedom to ride the way you love, and safe provides the controlled starch and guaranteed amino acids to give you confidence all your horse's needs are met. Make safe exciting with Safe Choice feeds. Learn more about the full lineup at neutrinoworld.com/safechoice.
Hi, my name is Nikki West, and I'm a freelance photojournalist based out of Seattle, Washington, and I'm a lifelong equestrian. And you're tuned in to another episode of Young Black Equestrians.
I'm a young
black equestrian.
I'm a young black equestrian.
I am a young black equestrian.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Young Black Equestrians with your host, Abriana Johnson. Today we have on the podcast Nikki West, hailing from the West Coast, Seattle, Washington, here to talk to us today about how photojournalism and how equestrianism has impacted her life and what really has been going on with her since the last 2 years, since 2020. So
2020.
Welcome to the show, Nikki. I'm so happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Abriana. I was really excited to see your profile in Horse Magazine. I was actually at the feed store and I opened it up and I was like, Young Black Equestrians. All right, I got to talk to y'all.
That's amazing. I don't think I've had anyone say that they've seen that in the wild. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you reaching out, because I love being able to hear all of the different stories, because when we have our own experience in the horse industry, we kind of think that that's what it is for other people. And honestly, that it's not, and so the beauty in being able to share different experiences and hear what you got going on. So let's get started there. Tell me about yourself and how you got into horses.
So yeah, that's a really cool story. So I'm from the Pacific Northwest. My family's been here for a really long time. My mom was an Army brat. My dad was from here, but they ended up in Tacoma, Washington, which is a little bit south of Seattle. Mm-hmm. And so my mom's family is from Texas, and she grew up wrong side of the tracks, basically no money. And she actually told me the other day about how she got her first horse, because it was always a mystery to me. Like, my mother is the ultimate horse girl. And turns out what had happened, she had, watched Roy Rogers, the whole thing. And when she was 8 years old, she had worked enough to put together basically $150 for a POA out down in the Puyallup Valley, which is a rural area right nearby. Mm-hmm. And she had her older sister buy the horse because she was a literal child. Mm-hmm. hid the horse in a stable for years, used her lunch money. And granted, this is the 1960s, 1970s. Mm-hmm. And she's a black girl. They didn't even have a saddle. She rode bareback for a couple years while she was trying to save up for a saddle. Mm-hmm. And over time she just kept following her passion. And I was put on a horse about the time it was safe to put a child on a horse. I don't remember the first time I rode, but horses have always been a part of my life. And it's been the greatest gift my mother has ever given me.
Yeah. So is that something that you have been able to share together, riding together, or was she just like, this is something that I really loved and was passionate about when I was younger, so I want you to do it too?
Well, she's been riding horses my entire life.
Okay.
There's been a few periods in which she stopped, but it has been this way that our relationship has always developed. So she was the person who taught me how to ride horses. She got me into 4-H. We did competitive trail riding for a little bit. Actually last weekend, she gave me a riding lesson, and she's a dressage lady, so she's super hardcore. She was like, you're gonna be in 2-point like for 10 minutes straight. I don't care, like get your ass out of that saddle.
Yeah.
Like, she's had an amazing equestrian career, because my dad was in the military, and so they got deployed to Latin America and to Germany. So she learned Germany from, she learned dressage from like the German masters, jumping, barrels, you name it, she's done it. And she has passed all that knowledge on to me, and it's super awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that is absolutely amazing. We're gonna have to get on Mama's schedule too.
Oh, she's had her career is pretty wild too. She's like she's a top-notch professional. She's done a lot of government work, and she's a really cool lady.
Cool. Well, we know that you love horses, know that, that's been an integral part of your growing up. How did journalism kind of get into the mix? So
journalism has also been this thing that's kind of been lingering around in the background. And I have worked in a variety of different, communications roles before. I have probably been reading the Wall Street Journal as soon as I could read. I've been watching Meet the Press, all these things. And I guess I just never consciously put it together that journalism was my passion. But during the summer of 2020, my apartment was literally epicenter for the George Floyd protests, because downtown is one way, and then Capitol Hill was like 5 blocks that way. So it was all going down in the middle, of where I was living. Like, I literally have a picture, like a picture from the Seattle Times with the riot cops in front of my apartment. That's how close it all was to me. And something just clicked inside me to just take my camera and go out there and start taking pictures, right? Because, I grew up Black. I grew up with, a mother who had to struggle to get to where she was. And it was a part of my identity. And I felt the pull. And when I was there, it suddenly just all clicked. I was like, for a long time, I struggled about like what I was supposed to do career-wise and who I was supposed to be. It just hit right in that moment.
That's interesting. So tell me a little bit, kind of pre-2020, what did life look like for Nikki, whether it be in horses or just kind of figuring out who it is that you wanted to be?
Sure. So I have actually done a little bit of work in the government. So back in 2016, I worked for a congressman. I've done Hill internships. I've worked for nonprofits. I'd kind of been generally in the government space. And so before 2020, I'd, been working in those things. And horses had kind of taken a little bit of a sidetrack just because you're aware Washington, D.C. is one of the most expensive places to have and work with horses. Could not afford it, could not even afford lessons. And I just didn't have the same network out there like I do out here. And so I did a lot of other things like yoga, hiking, photography. And then, in the last couple of years, I transitioned back out west and reconnected with the community that I grew up with, because the equestrian community that I've grown up with is out here in the Pacific Northwest. I've been riding with them since literally I was a child and in diapers. The facility I've been to, there's literally pictures of me as a child at the rodeos. So that is kind of what my life looks like now.
Yeah. So how has your kind of proximity to this Black Lives Matter reporting influenced your equestrian relationships, if any?
Sure. So they all know that I'm on this podcast, and they've been really supportive of my reporting. But I am a little bit hesitant to tell everybody who I run across in the horse world that I do journalism. There are, varying degrees of political attitudes and ideology that kind of run around there. I have noticed a lot more Black equestrians at my facility. Before it was literally just me and my mom. Now there's 4 or 5 people in my barn. You know, we're starting to see little trickles of discussion about, you know, how do we make this space more inclusive? How do we make sure that people aren't getting priced out? There's a lot of things, you know, like finding ways around subleases, around leases and subleases, so that, you know, kids of color can come in and ride the horses. So I think in a way, like, you know, when you're involved in a community, right, like what you bring to the table inevitably impacts the culture. And so because outside of the equestrian community, I spend a lot of time photographing people of color and people of color who do not, you know, have the same kind of means that a lot of people in the equestrian community do. That's what I bring to the table. And I, you know, slowly shifting that conversation.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that it's been a little bit of a difficulty and sometimes in the YBE community when we talk about being in these barn environments and wanting to like have these conversations, but also not wanting to really rock the boat if you feel like you've got a good thing going, I guess. How or what advice or could you give to kind of navigate that? You know, I'm not saying like run up in the barn and be like, let the Blacks in. Like it's not that, you know, but it's hard sometimes to have these, you know, conversations in spaces where you are the minority. So what has that experience been like for you?
I think the way that I kind of stepped my toe in is talking about financial accessibility. That makes sense. Where, how do we, you know, address kids from a poor community? Now, I'm kind of lucky in a way that the community in which I ride in is very working class. And so that's like, you know, accessibility and cost is already on their mindset, right? And it just kind of starts there, right? You kind of have to nudge the conversation. If you just walk in like, we just got to have everybody in this barn be Black, like there's just going to be people who are going to be mad uncomfortable with that. But if you start the conversation with like, how do we get more kids involved, or like, how do we get more kids without means involved, kind of modeling behavior. So, you know, I'm a journalist. I don't make a lot of money. The woman whose horse I ride right now, I've been friends with for a long time. And so I exchange taking care of her horse to ride, you know, creating deals like that so that, you know, we reduce those barriers to entry.
Absolutely. And in the last, we do these what we call fireside chats in the YBE Facebook group, which you should join if you are not a part of already. And we talked about some of the like unconventional ways to get into horses. And one of the individuals there was like, I didn't know, like, what is a lease? Like, I didn't know I could do a lease. And she shared that, you know, she just wanted to learn about horses. And a lot of the dynamics is you come to get a lesson and then I need you to leave, you know? And I don't know if that's just like pandemic, like don't really be hanging around, or just the structure of barn environments nowadays. But sometimes people just want to learn, and they want to learn how to clean tack, and they want to learn how to saddle up their own horse instead of showing up and the horse is already ready and you just get on and get taught and get off and go home kind of thing.
I think this is where organizations like 4-H can really come in and bridge that gap, right? Because the purpose of 4-H is just education and connecting people. So we have one young girl I'm helping mentor, right now. She's also Black, and she doesn't have that much money, and her grandparents are wonderfully supportive people. And so, one of the things that we've all done is gotten her involved in 4-H and Pony Club because of the massive, sort of education network. Because again, like you said, a lot of people just want to come in and learn about horses. And I think because so many barns are struggling just to, make the margins work, that they're just like, show up, like ride for 45 minutes and give me your check and leave. And personally, I don't like to be involved in, setups like that. That's not the joy of horses to me. It's being part of the community and taking care of the animals.
Yeah, absolutely. There's 4-H is great. I used to be a 4-H co-leader, and I was just thinking, as you said that, is like, there's no 4-H for adults. Like, there's no 4-H for people who have aged out of the school system, those kids that, may not have had the means, but have the interest now. And, young adults in college or whatever, there's no 4-H for them.
Well, that, and I just generally think we need to have continuing agricultural education.
Oh, for sure. Yes. That is, we could have a whole different episode on ag ed. I mean, you know what? Let me write that down, because that is a conversation that needs to be had. But really just getting people in the mix. I know a lot of the conversations around like competitive sports, horse sports, they're like, how do we get more people of color competing, or how do we get them to start coming to our shows? And it's like, you realize there's like stuff before that. Like, you got to get them to do the stuff before that, like show up in a barn, and
or even think of it as a possibility for something to do. Right. Where it's just like, for whatever reason, we decided the only sports for Black kids, it's like football, like basketball, and maybe baseball, maybe soccer. Like, we don't present like, hey, you can actually learn how to ride horses.
As a sport.
You can do yoga, you can ski, you can kayak, you can do all these other things. You have access to a variety of different sports, just besides these like 4 ones we've decided that are the only ones that are acceptable for you.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of what you guys are doing here is helping demystify this, because we have all dealt with microaggressions and crappy comments. And one of the ones that I've always gotten, it was just basically that I wasn't really that Black because I rode horses. I'm like, well, that's weird, because I don't think my melanin fell off when I got on the horse. So my mother's family's from Texas. Like, I'm not sure if you follow Zarin Burnett, but he talks about Black cowboys in Texas, that actually like a quarter of American cowboys are actually Black. And
that is now, I'm not going to say it's sensationalized, but it's becoming more Hollywood marketable. So it is nice.
Right. It was Compton Cowboys was the Netflix movie, right?
Compton. Yeah. Concrete Cowboys.
Concrete.
I was like, wait, that's not right.
I knew it wasn't right when I said it, but it was like, it's
the Compton Cowboys.
I'm thinking of the Compton Cowboys that showed up during the BLM protests.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I really am turning into an old person.
Girl, that's I'm about to hit the 30 mark, and I'm like, I can't remember anything, but that's neither here nor there. How has your connection with horses had an impact on your kind of reporting life, your freelancing life?
Yes. So this is something I've talked about a couple times before, but I don't think I've talked about in depth. So the Pacific Northwest, I actually researched this buck Brannaman actually is like in my social circles, but we're a natural horsemanship community. That's like what the Pacific Northwest is all about. It's what we've pioneered. And the entire idea behind natural horsemanship is, instead of doing the old cowboy way where you basically are trying to beat the horse into submission, it's about understanding and creating a fluid relationship and understanding herd dynamics in order to like do decision making together. And it hit me in the middle of a very chaotic protest that what is happening here is just stone cold herd dynamics. Between, right, when you're in a situation where you have a lot of people screaming, you have the riot cops with the guns and the tear gas and the helmets and the whole thing, and you have 18 different things going off, the logical side of your brain is like gone. And now you're operating on those classic old herd instincts that kept us surviving from the get-go. And, you know, being equestrian and being on the back of the horse, I once thought about it this way, where it's sort of like you're playing chess at 30 miles an hour, where you're making all of these sudden, quick, rapid decisions. And if you screw it up, right, you can get really hurt really quickly. Like I was loping around the arena the other day, and I was realizing I was on a trajectory that was slightly too close, and I was about to slam into my friend Sammy's horse. And it was only because I just did a 5-degree turn this way.
Right.
I was fine. And, you know, we all went home. But that's kind of what happens when you're in a riot or a protest. You're around hundreds of people who are not acting rationally, who are operating purely on flight or flight, and you have to make these sudden rapid fire decisions, and you can't freeze. It's like move, and you have this on top of you too, so you don't have the same view of motion.
Right.
And I saw a lot of people get hurt or end up in bad situations because they didn't have that sort of, you know, rapid decision fire thing that comes from years of being an equestrian, because this is just intuitive to me, is to be able to just make all of these decisions in a really fast, rapid paced way.
Yeah. That's interesting. I haven't ever thought about drawing those parallels. So from that, I guess since 2020, there has been a little bit of shift in conversation, and, you know, no one's going to forget the summer of 2020, really, truly, especially people in the Black community who are more outspoken or more active in activism. What shifts have you seen in journalism and in the equestrian space since then?
I think both communities realized that they had a serious diversity issue in their flanks. Equestrians even more so than I was kind of anticipating, because when we think about equestrianism, we think of it being either on the East Coast, wealthy white people, or on the West Coast, conservative, middle class to working class people. And it's like the tone shift. And I grew up in Pierce County 4-H, which Pierce County is a relatively more diverse county just because we have the military. And so like I did compete against girls who were Native American or Latina, but there weren't that many Black girls who competed against me. Now I've noticed it's shifting, and I've noticed that people are starting to bring up the conversation. I think the community I'm in is doing a good job in outreach and embracing people of color, but I know that's not universal. Seattle is, you know, a much more friendly community in terms of journalism, in terms of bringing people of color in, and part of it is a demographics issue. I think Seattle only has a 7% Black population, and relatively like low, Latino population. And so they're very conscious of the fact that their newsrooms weren't particularly diverse.
Nutrena presents an uncompromising approach to superior nutrition. Nutrient-dense Empower products are scientifically designed for low feeding rates. Empower Digestive Balance supports overall gastrointestinal health and helps maintain normal gastric pH to keep them feeling their best, while Empower Top Line Balance focuses on top-line health and improvement and now includes chromium to support insulin-resistant horses. For more information on Empower products, visit NutrinaWorld.com. So what does it look like as a freelancer to, I feel like my question is a complete shift from that. So if this sounds random,
That's fine.
I'm so sorry.
Podcast.
As it was coming out, I was like, wait, that was not related to what she just said.
That's
But
fine.
I am always, interested in having conversations about people's path when it's not necessarily traditional. And that tends to be the case when we start talking about freelancing. So how has your, career help support your horse habit, your lifestyle?
How do I make the pony money work?
Basically.
The answer to that is I am extremely creative. Like I said before, I have deep relationships with the horse community that I'm in now. And so they are very conscious of the fact that I do journalism. But so what I do a lot with that is that I help take care of people's animals where they may not have the time or the energy to take care of these animals. In exchange, I get to ride them. A lot of my equipment and things that I've had for a very long time, and I've picked up kind of slowly through various jobs. Again, journalism wasn't my first job, so I decided to get in when I was a little bit more financially established, and had some more career establishment versus starting this when I was 20. I started at 30, and that makes a difference. I also just don't go on vacation or do a lot of other fun things. Listen, I like to do art. I like to do horses and journalism. I got like $7.
Not 7.
Exactly, $7. But it's honestly, to me, it's worth it. I'm so much happier, broke as hell doing what I'm doing now, just because it is a fulfilling life where I get to meet interesting people, have amazing conversations, and understand the world on a deeper level.
Absolutely. And that's beautiful. And that is necessary as well, doing what it is that makes you happy, because life is too short to do the opposite.
That's the biggest thing I got out of the pandemic, honestly. It was that, some people are like, oh, like you shouldn't grind all the time, whatever. And I grind really hard while not making a lot of money, but I grind in service of showing the truth and having fun and building a community where people feel empowered and have, this lifelong hobby of caring for animals.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people mixed up the grind with, you can work really hard to build a better life for yourself and the people around you.
Yeah, absolutely. So in what other ways, I mean, you've listed quite a few, but in what other ways do horses impact your life currently?
Yeah, I mean, they just, in addition to just the work and community aspect, I love being on the back of one. They have helped me deal with just a variety of different life issues. It's the old cliche, all your problem, you work out all your problems on the back of a horse. But it's very true. What I get out of horses is I've had a lifelong relationship with these animals that have taught me a lot about myself, but like there's also all this other tangential knowledge that come along. Like I remember I was ranting to somebody about like the appropriate way to like set up, like a fields for like field rotation, whatever. And I went in this really long rant about like land and soil and water management. And this person's like, how did you even know any of that? And I'm like, I ride horses. You just pick up this stuff over time. But you know, it is like we even touched on before, is talking about agricultural education. Horses have given me, you know, a greater insight on like, where does our food come from? How do rural communities, like, you know, shape themselves? You know, there's all this knowledge that comes around taking care of these animals, other than just, okay, show up, get on the pony and leave. It's just given me a lot of peace, and at the same time an extraordinary level of knowledge and understanding of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is one of the unique benefits. And, you know, as people are, or as parents may be trying to get their kids into horses, or people, you know, who are not under their parents' care, young adults are looking to get more into this lifestyle. It's just, the possibilities are endless, and the possibilities for learning don't stop at the horse. And I think that surprises some people.
I described it to somebody, because I never played video games as a kid. But I described it as horses are the ultimate sandbox. Like, you can just go tangentially wherever you want to go. So this winter I decided I just want to really learn about horse conditioning. I like really want to, you know, get this one horse I'm working on completely in shape. But the next summer I could just, you know, I could be like, you know what, I just want to learn about equine gut health. It's the possibilities for this hobby are amazing, because you can spend multiple lifetimes learning about these animals and still not get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. And that's also one of the unique qualities of this industry, is that everybody's going to have a suggestion, a way to do it right, you know? And it's like, there's a million ways to do it right. Everybody does horses differently, and you just have to find the way that works for you.
Well, and the animals are so different too. I have learned with some people, the trick is you just, you know, you say, hey, I heard you, and kind of demonstrate what they showed you. And then if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that is sometimes how I cope with a lot of that unsolicited advice.
Yeah. That is I wonder if it's easier to cope with advice like that simply because we've been in the industry that long. But when, you know, trying to empower, you know, new equestrians coming into this space, it's like a lot of the emails and questions that I get about it is, what do I do if, or what do I do when so-and-so says this, or this is what my one trainer told me and it didn't feel good, but it's my trainer, so what do I do now? You know, that kind of conversation. So I think that us longer equestrians, especially Black equestrians, have a little bit of a responsibility to just be like, yo, it literally, it depends. Like the answer that everybody hates. It depends. Things change.
Well, and that's where mentorship comes along, where
right.
You have to teach these kids, like, you know, not everybody's advice is entirely valid. And it really is context development. If what this person has shown you doesn't work, it doesn't work, and just move on. I have had people teach me like 8 different ways how to cue into a lope. And honestly, I've now just come to the point where I'm like, it's just dependent on the horse. I don't know how these animals go into a canter, honestly.
right. Just faster.
It's just a miracle.
Faster. Not now. Okay, cool. Gotta
all right,
figure out another way. It's fine. I feel you on that. I feel you on that. So
that's kind of why I'm just like, I really am trying to figure out a way to get my own, because it's like, what's great about getting your own is that you just get to set it up the way you want it to. Like, I had a friend, she just bought a quarter horse yearling, and she is about to have the time of her life just setting that horse up perfectly.
Yeah. That's what I did. Well, I got him as a wing.
Yeah, what kind of horse do you have?
A walking horse.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, I have two. I have a walking horse and a mini, and I got the walking horse at 6 months and the mini at 7 months. So they are like, I know all the buttons, and that was my goal. I rode enough other people's horses. I was like, but I need to know what the buttons are. Like, how do you start?
I'm tired of playing in the dark.
Yeah, like I just feel like I want to know it all. Okay, I need to know. I want to know the traumas. I need to know why.
I need to know your neurosis. I need to know exactly why you crazy the way you crazy.
Exactly. Like, I need to know things. So yeah, that was my experience. But I know that not everyone has the patience to not ride for 2.5, 3 years. And
yeah, that's what my mom's doing now. My mom finally got her dream horse after years and years and years.
Yeah.
Somehow, through the miracles of dreamhorse.com, my mother got an Andalusian for a price I don't even want to mention for fear of getting stabbed.
If Mama wants it, she can get it.
We got this horse for 10 years old, gelding, sweet as pie, beautiful mover. He just hadn't been saddled and a couple other things, and that was the reason we got him for so cheap. But we put him into a trainer for 90 days. We're working with another trainer right now who she's a Simone gal. She was a this great 3-day eventer, and he is just beautiful. I've ridden him a couple of times and I was just like, oh Mom, you got the dream. Like, this is what the struggle was about. Right. That was, like, we all have that one horse that, like, when we were like 6 years old, we all looked at and was like, that's the dream. And for my mother, Andalusians.
Yeah.
And she got him, and he is just a doll. And yeah, the whole getting to set the buttons yourself is really nice.
So is there a particular discipline that you ride?
So I have been shifting towards reining. So my mother's a dressage girl, but truthfully, dressage kind of bores me a little bit. And I listen, I know that dressage makes you an incredible rider and all that stuff. And it really is a beautiful thing when you really nail dressage, but I kind of like reining a little bit more because I like it when the pony go fast.
Yeah. Yes. Go fast and stop fast.
Well, and honestly, the spins are really cool, and the pictures when you do the slides, like, it's so badass. Like, I can't.
Yeah. Do you do any like photography at horse shows and things?
I'm starting to step my foot into it.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a political issue, so I have to tread lightly.
Yeah. Everybody has their turf and stuff. So
everybody has their photographer, and everybody has certain ways that they want their animals. It's actually a really interesting challenge to try to photograph horses, because it's not like a person where I can tell you, hey, look in the camera like this, move your head like this. It's a horse that it's either afraid of the sound, or it wants to eat it, or just will never move its head correctly. It just requires like an intense level of patience, and I'm trying to really nail it. And I know it's going to take a couple years to really knock it out. But it's a really fun challenge.
Yeah.
To learn how to photograph them.
Yeah. I've gone to a clinic hosted by a girl that photographs me, and just am like, you know what? Instead of teaching me how to do this, teach me how to use Photoshop, because it sounds like I just need to figure out how to alter these images. There's one ear back here, and then the tongue's out. Like, you know what? Maybe I should just learn how to edit it out. You know what? Do what you want to do during this picture. But I'm not a photographer.
They are more chaotic to photograph than dogs.
I'm sure.
I have a much easier time photographing my dog than my horse. It is much harder.
Yeah, dogs don't have that same like fear and like 2 miles in the distance seeing a car go by and they're like, oh, what's that? Like dogs don't have that. But horses,
everything that makes a sound is murder. Yes.
right. Right.
One of the things I'm teaching my horses now is, so I want to play around with drone photography, like particularly for trail riding, but I know the sound's gonna freak them out. So what I'm gonna start to do this summer is put those like 99-cent fans on their stalls, so they're used to the whirring sound. Because equestrianism is just playing mind games with a 900-pound animal.
Basically, and enjoying it the whole way. So what advice could you share with the YBE community, people who are really trying to find their lane in this horse world?
Trying to find your lane, I think, be yourself. Don't ever, I know it's the most kindergarten advice on the planet. But the older I get, the truer it is, where this is a big wide world, and trying to be other people is just, it's always gonna come off forced. So, if you're an artist, play around with art. If if you're a STEM person, go and study your ass off about, and be the gut health guy or whatever it may be. There's so many opportunities in this space. Just follow what feels natural to you and have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell people all the time, anything that you want to do, just put horse in front of it. And boom, you are in the horse industry. It is really that simple. So that is great advice. If there are people who want to get in touch with you, what is the best way to contact you?
Yeah, right now, I primarily reach out to people on Twitter. So it's just Twitter at Nikki West, 2_ between Nikki and West. And just give me a shout out and I'll chat back with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. I love the conversation. I love the work that you are doing, and we're gonna have to get on your mama's schedule too, so she can tell us all about her experience from Texas to Washington and everything in between. So thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much for having me on. This was really great.
Thank you for tuning in to Young Black Equestrians, the podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast player as well as over on YouTube. And you know what? Do me a favor, leave a review over on Apple Podcasts. Doing that makes it so that this platform and this content gets shared with Black equestrians all over the world. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I will see you next time.